The twin suns of Altharion glowed across the sky, bathing the alien capital in golden light. Towering crystal spires reflected their warmth, creating rainbows across the streets below. Queen Lyra stood at the balcony of her palace, her eyes scanning the horizon. Even after decades of rule, the galaxy was never truly safe. Threats lingered in shadowed systems, and she had learned to trust very few. Today, however, her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden alarm. Sirens echoed across the palace. The security network had detected an intrusion, an attack unlike any before. Lyra's instincts sharpened. She knew that someone had crossed the border of her territory without permission. The palace guards ran through the halls, their armored boots clicking against the smooth, crystalline floors. Lyra didn't wait. She moved with fluid grace, her alien senses already attuned to danger. As she reached the observation deck, she saw them. A group of raiders, heavily armed, fast and organized. Their intention was clear: capture her. From the palace's defense turrets, streams of energy fire lit the air. But the raiders were clever, weaving through the defenses as if they had studied them for years. Lyra realized immediately that she needed help, and not just any help. Then she saw him, a human. Elias Varn had appeared seemingly from nowhere. His small scout ship hovered near the battlefield, weaving through incoming fire with uncanny precision. Unlike the disciplined and precise alien she was used to, Elias moved unpredictably, improvising maneuvers and dodging attacks in ways that seemed impossible. His human reflexes, sharp and adaptable, allowed him to respond to threats faster than most alien soldiers could. Lyra had heard of humans before, spoken of in whispers and rumors across her empire. They were said to be fragile, yet cunning and resourceful. She had never expected to meet one, much less one so daring. Elias didn't pause. His small ship released a swarm of automated drones that intercepted the raiders' fire, drawing attention away from the palace. Then, with perfect timing, he landed near the front gates, stepping out in his armored suit, which bore scratches and dents from countless skirmishes. "Your Majesty," he called, his voice calm but firm. "I'm here to help." Lyra's eyes widened. She had not called for him, and yet he had arrived at the precise moment of danger. There was something extraordinary about him, something instinctive and fearless. The raiders had already breached the palace's outer defenses. Lyra saw them racing across the courtyards, weapons raised, intent on capturing her. Without thinking, Elias charged forward. He moved faster than any human she had ever seen, dodging energy blasts and disarming opponents with clever tactics. His actions weren't just brave, and they were ingenious. Lyra found herself instinctively following his lead. "Elias," she called, and he turned just enough to give her a confident nod. They moved together, a strange and unexpected team, the human with his unpredictable tactics and the queen with her alien abilities and authority. They reached the main hall just as the raiders were about to corner her. Elias raised a device from his suit, a compact energy disruptor. With a few swift movements, the device emitted pulses that disabled the raiders' weapons, sending them tumbling to the floor. The hall was silent save for the heavy breathing of the defeated intruders. Lyra's heart was racing. She had faced countless threats, but she had never seen a human act with such fearless ingenuity. She approached him, her eyes studying every detail, the determination in his stance, the calm in his voice, the way he seemed to predict every move of their attackers. "You saved me," she said simply, her voice carrying awe and gratitude. He shrugged almost bashfully. "I just did what had to be done." There was a pause, a strange moment where the war around them seemed to fade. Lyra realized that humans were unlike any ally she had ever known. Their courage didn't rely on strength alone. It came from creativity, from thinking in ways the aliens did not. And this human had risked everything without hesitation. Before she could ask more, the palace alarms blared again. Reinforcements from the raiders were on the move. Elias turned to her. "Stay here. I'll handle them." "No," Lyra said sharply, stepping forward. "We face them together," he smiled. Agreed. The next hour was chaos. Energy blasts lit the night. Shadows danced across the crystal walls and the ground shook with the impact of heavy weapons. Yet Elias and Lyra moved as a team. He improvised traps and diversions, using the palace architecture to his advantage. She used her alien abilities to shield and redirect attacks, their movements perfectly synchronized despite their different species. Finally, the raiders were defeated. The few who survived fled, realizing that they had underestimated not only the Queen but also the human who had appeared out of nowhere. Lyra turned to Elias, her heart pounding with relief and admiration. "Why did you come?" she asked, curiosity lacing her words. Elias looked at her, his eyes serious. "Because you mattered. Because I knew you would need someone who wouldn't hesitate." Before Lyra could respond, alarms blared one final time, this time from the palace perimeter. A fleet of enemy ships appeared on the horizon, faster and more heavily armed than anything the capital had ever faced. Elias's eyes widened. "They're too many," he said, calculating rapidly. "We need a plan." He ran back to his ship, typing commands into a control panel. Lyra watched him, impressed by how humans could adapt to impossible situations with such speed and precision. He launched a series of drones and small fighter ships, engaging the enemy in a battle that was both chaotic and brilliantly strategic. The battle lasted for hours. Lyra could see the toll it took on him, the scratches on his armor, the exhaustion in his stance. Yet Elias never slowed. He moved with relentless energy, combining his human ingenuity with the palace's defenses to turn the tide. Then, just as victory seemed within reach, Elias glanced at her. "I have to go," he said abruptly, almost regretfully. "Go?" Lyra asked, confused. "What do you mean?" He didn't answer. Before she could react, he activated a teleportation device on his ship. In a flash of light, he was gone. No trace, no warning, only the faint hum of his ship fading into the distance. Lyra stood there, stunned. The enemy was defeated, the palace safe, and yet he had vanished. Just like that, the human who had saved her life disappeared as suddenly as he had arrived. The palace guards approached her cautiously. "Your Majesty, are you all right?" one asked. Lyra's eyes were distant, her mind replaying every moment of the battle. "Yes," she said finally, her voice calm but thoughtful. "But we have been touched by something extraordinary today. By a human." Over the next weeks, rumors spread across Altharion of the human who had saved the Queen and vanished without a trace. Scholars debated how a fragile human could outmatch highly trained alien warriors. Politicians speculated whether he would return, or if this was a singular event, a miracle that would never repeat. But Lyra remembered. She remembered his courage, his cleverness, his calm in the face of overwhelming odds. Every night she would look at the stars, hoping to see the small ship that had appeared at the right moment, hoping that the human would return one day. Little did she know, Elias' disappearance was no accident. He had been pulled into a mission beyond known space, one that would take him far from Altharion. Yet his mind often drifted back to the Crystal Palace, to the Queen who had trusted him instantly, and to the thought that one day he would return. 5 years had passed since the day Elias Varn had appeared and vanished from Altharion. In that time, the crystal spires of the capital had grown taller, more magnificent, reflecting the brilliance of the twin suns. The city thrived, but Queen Lyra's thoughts often drifted back to the human who had saved her life. His face, his calm determination, and the strange courage that humans seemed to carry were never far from her mind. Even as she attended council meetings, signed decrees, and received foreign ambassadors, her thoughts lingered on Elias. The advisors around her spoke of alliances, military strategy, and economic plans, but she heard only echoes of a memory. She remembered the way he had moved, the confidence in his stance, the careful thought behind each action, the quiet bravery that had turned the tide of battle. "Your Majesty," an advisor said one day, interrupting her gaze out over the city, "we must consider the threat from the Garrulon fleet. They grow bolder each cycle." Lyra turned, her eyes steady. "Yes, but we must also consider humans," she said softly, almost to herself. The advisor frowned. "Humans? What humans? Are you thinking of that incident 5 years ago?" Lyra nodded. "Yes, that one human who appeared at the palace during the attack. He vanished immediately afterward, but his actions, they were extraordinary. I remember them clearly." The room went silent. Aliens did not often praise humans. Many considered them weak, fragile creatures, too unpredictable and short-lived to be a serious ally. And yet Lyra's experience had shown her something entirely different. "He changed the outcome of the battle," she said. "With very little support, he stopped the raiders from reaching this palace. Without him, we could have lost everything." One young advisor dared to speak. "But, Your Majesty, he left. Why would you continue to focus on a human who abandoned us?" Lyra's gaze hardened.
"He did not abandon us."
He disappeared because of forces we do not yet understand. And I will not forget him, not for a moment. In private, Lyra often returned to the palace balcony at dusk. She would lean over the crystal railing, watching the twin suns sink behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the city. There she would close her eyes and relive the battle. She could feel the energy blasts, the sudden rush of danger, the calm that Elias brought into chaos. She remembered his words, short and confident. I just did what had to be done. She did not understand how humans could possess such resolve. Aliens were often bound by hierarchy, by protocol, by rules etched over centuries. Humans seemed free of such constraints. They acted with thought, intuition, and creativity. They took risks that no alien warrior would consider, and yet somehow it worked. Lyra's fascination with Elias grew over the years. She began to study humans, the few records of them that existed. Reports, sketches, and intercepted transmissions painted a picture of a species that was fragile, yet astonishingly clever. They survived in hostile environments. They solved problems in unpredictable ways, and they displayed loyalty and courage in ways few aliens could imagine. For Lyra, Elias became a symbol of hope, of ingenuity, of bravery. She often wondered if he was still alive, somewhere in the galaxy, facing dangers that none of them could even imagine. The political landscape of Altharian shifted during these years, but the Queen's memory of Elias never wavered. Rival factions rose and fell. New allies came and went, yet she always returned to that single moment of courage. She began to incorporate human-inspired tactics into her military training. Instead of relying solely on rigid formations and brute strength, her soldiers were taught to think creatively, improvise, and anticipate their enemies' moves. Lessons she had learned from Elias without him ever explaining them. One evening, as she reviewed strategy reports with her generals, she paused over a particular entry. "If only we had humans like him here," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. A general frowned. "Your Majesty, I do not believe humans can be controlled or relied upon. Their independence is unpredictable." Lyra shook her head. "That is precisely why they are valuable. They do not follow expectation. They think beyond rules." Elias did not just fight. He understood the battlefield in ways we cannot teach. That is strength. Her generals remained skeptical, but the Queen's conviction was unwavering. She knew what she had witnessed, and no amount of doubt could erase it. In her private chambers, Lyra kept a small holographic display. It projected a recreation of the palace battle, a record she had reconstructed from security data and her memory. She would watch it for hours, tracing Elias' movements, noting the clever improvisations, the calm decisions under fire. She felt a strange connection to him, one that transcended species or politics. Lyra also began to reach out quietly to other human records. She sent messages to human colonies seeking news, stories, or rumors. Each reply that came back was fragmentary, a hint of movement, a suggestion that humans were more capable than even the most advanced alien civilizations understood. Yet none mentioned Elias. Still, she hoped. As the 5th anniversary of his disappearance approached, the Queen found herself restless. She wandered through the palace halls at night, alone except for her guards stationed at a distance. Her thoughts were occupied entirely by the human who had vanished. She remembered his voice, his gestures, his strange, fearless presence. She remembered the moment he had looked at her before disappearing, as if understanding without words that his duty and her safety were intertwined. And then he was gone, leaving only the memory, a faint echo of courage and determination. Her advisors noticed her distraction but did not challenge her. They understood that humans, rare as they were, left impressions far stronger than the years alone could erase. Then came a strange transmission from the edge of Altharian's sensor network. It was faint, brief, almost like a whisper. The signal was untraceable, and the technology behind it seemed unlike anything the aliens had ever encountered. Lyra studied the readings, her heart quickening. "Could it be him?" she whispered. The chief scientist frowned. "Impossible. The human presence in this region is nearly non-existent. Most records suggest they are in other systems far away." Lyra shook her head. "No, I will not dismiss it, Elias. If you are out there, I will find a way to reach you." For weeks she dedicated herself to this task. She did not rest. She did not sleep more than a few hours each night. She pored over star charts, sensor data, and interstellar reports. Every anomaly, Every unexplained signal became a possible clue. Her council watched in awe. The Queen's determination was unmatched, fueled by the memory of one human. It was unprecedented. Aliens had never known a leader so influenced by a single being from another species, yet none could deny the results. Under her guidance, Altharian's defenses grew stronger, more flexible, more unpredictable, and with each improvement, her admiration for Elias deepened. Finally, on the 5th anniversary of his disappearance, she stood once more on the palace balcony. The twin suns were setting, painting the city in hues of gold and violet. She closed her eyes, remembering the first time she had seen him, his fearless movements across the battlefield, the quiet confidence in his eyes. "You changed everything," she whispered. "Even if you do not return, you left a mark on this world. On me." And far beyond the capital, somewhere deep in uncharted space, Elias Varn looked at the same twin suns through the viewport of his scout vessel. He did not know the Queen remembered him. He did not know that his small acts of courage had become a legend on Altharian. Yet somehow Lyra's memory was reaching him across the stars, a faint connection that neither time nor distance could sever. For Queen Lyra, hope remained, and in hope she found strength to lead, to protect her people, and to wait for the day when the human who had vanished would return. The galaxy moved on, full of chaos and conflict. Alliances shifted, fleets collided, and planets trembled under the weight of war. Yet one story remained unchanged. The story of a queen who remembered and the human who had inspired her to believe in courage, ingenuity, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. The vastness of space stretched endlessly before Elias Varn, as his scout vessel cut through the dark void. 5 years had passed since he vanished from Altharian, 5 years spent in missions so dangerous and remote that no one could have predicted his survival. But he had survived. Every challenge, every unknown threat in uncharted systems had only sharpened his skills, his instincts, and his resolve. Yet through all the chaos, one thought had remained constant: Queen Lyra. He remembered her eyes, sharp, intelligent, and unwavering even under fire. He remembered the trust she had shown him instantly, the faith she had placed in a human when others had doubted. And though the mission that had taken him away was unfinished, he carried a silent promise. He would return. Now approaching the outer system of Altharian, Elias felt a mixture of anticipation and caution. The queen he had saved 5 years ago had not forgotten him. He could feel it, as if her memory reached across the stars. The sensor readings confirmed that the planet remained strong, its defenses more sophisticated than before, yet human ingenuity had prepared him for this moment. As he entered the upper atmosphere, the twin suns glared through the ship's viewport, casting the crystalline capital in dazzling light. Elias' heart stirred. So much had changed, yet the palace still stood, a beacon of strength and elegance. It had been 5 long years, and he had returned not as the human who vanished, but as someone who had survived, adapted, and grown stronger. A squadron of alien patrol ships intercepted him, their weapons raised and scanners active. Elias initiated a series of complex maneuvers, weaving through energy beams with the precision of someone who had faced far worse in countless star systems. He deployed small drones that emitted pulses to confuse sensors, a tactic the aliens had never encountered. "Identify yourself," a voice called over the communication channel. Clipped and mechanical. "I am Elias Varn," he replied steadily. "Here on behalf of Queen Lyra." There was a pause. Then, finally, the patrol ship lowered its weapons. "Proceed. The Queen is expecting you." Elias exhaled quietly, feeling a weight lift. It was time. He guided his ship toward the landing bay of the palace, weaving skillfully through the towering spires. The city, bathed in the warm glow of the twin suns, was quiet, almost serene. It had been 5 years, yet to him it felt as if he had never left. As his ship touched down, alarms inside the palace triggered. Not danger alarms, but alerts signaling an unknown vessel entering the capital. Lyra's personal guard assembled swiftly, moving with precision, their senses attuned to every detail. The Queen herself approached the main entrance, her posture regal, yet her heart raced in anticipation. When Elias emerged from the ship, Lyra's eyes widened. He had changed, more hardened, more capable, yet still unmistakably the human who had saved her life. His suit bore marks of battle, his movements confident and his presence commanding. "Elias," she whispered, almost in disbelief. He bowed slightly, a faint smile on his face. Your Majesty, I've returned as I promised. The guards, though cautious, allowed him to approach. They sensed the bond between the Queen and this human, a connection that transcended protocol or rank. Lyra's heart beat faster, a mixture of relief and joy. I never thought I would see you again, she said. I never left, he replied quietly. Not in my mind. For a long moment neither spoke. Words were unnecessary. The memory of battle, of trust, and of courage hung between them like a bridge spanning years and distance. Then the alarms blared again, this time signaling a new threat. A fleet of unknown ships had appeared near Altherion's orbit, moving with deliberate aggression. Intelligence reports had failed to detect them until now. Elias' eyes narrowed. He recognized the design. A rogue coalition of alien factions, their power amplified by stolen technology. If left unchecked, they could overrun the capital in hours. Lyra stepped forward, her hand resting on a staff that symbolized her authority. Elias, will you fight with us? He nodded, already calculating their odds and strategies. Not just fight. We'll stop them together. The Queen's Council assembled quickly, but even they were in awe of Elias. He moved among them, analyzing weaknesses, coordinating defenses, and implementing tactics that combined human unpredictability with alien precision. His mind worked like a finely tuned machine, seeing angles and possibilities that few could perceive. For the first time in years, Lyra felt a sense of hope so strong it was almost tangible. The human who had vanished was not only back but ready to face the galaxy's dangers alongside her. Elias coordinated the palace defenses, repurposing the city's energy grids to create shielded zones and ambush points. He directed the deployment of drones, integrating them with the alien systems in ways no one had imagined possible. Lyra watched him, her admiration deepening. Humans were extraordinary. Their ingenuity was unmatched, and Elias embodied it perfectly. The first wave of enemy ships struck. Energy beams lanced across the sky, and the twin suns reflected off the alien vessels, creating flashes of light that illuminated the city. Yet Elias remained calm, issuing commands with precision, moving with an instinctive understanding of the battlefield. Lyra joined him, her alien powers complementing his tactics. Together they became a force no one had anticipated. Human adaptability met alien strength and strategy, creating a defense that was fluid, unpredictable, and nearly unstoppable. Hours passed in a blur of motion, energy, and sound. The enemy tried every tactic they knew, yet Elias anticipated each move. His knowledge of strategy, combined with his improvisational skills, allowed him to counter attacks before they could take root. The rogue coalition faltered, their ships falling one by one to the combined might of the Queen and the human who had returned. Finally, as the last enemy vessel retreated, silence fell over the capital. Smoke rose from the outskirts, but the palace remained unscathed. Lyra approached Elias, her heart swelling with gratitude and awe. You've done it, she said softly. You've returned and saved us again. He shook his head. We did it together. You led your people and I adapted. That's all humans do. We adapt, we improvise, we survive. Lyra smiled. And you inspire. Even after 5 years, your courage has never faded. Elias looked at her, a faint glimmer of humility in his eyes. I couldn't have done it without you. You trusted me when no one else would. For the first time in years, Lyra felt truly at peace. The human who vanished had returned, stronger, wiser, and even more extraordinary than she remembered. She realized that his presence was more than a symbol of courage. It was a reminder that humans could defy expectations, challenge limits, and inspire even the most advanced alien civilizations. As the twin suns set behind the palace spires, casting golden light across the city, Lyra knew that the bond between them was unbreakable. The Queen and the human warrior who had returned would face the galaxy's future together, and nothing, no threat, no danger, could diminish the extraordinary courage of humanity that Elias represented. The city of Altherion hummed with activity. The twin suns rose over the crystalline spires, casting long shadows across the capital. Yet the peace was fragile. Scouts had returned with disturbing reports. The rogue coalition that Elias had faced upon his return was not defeated. They had regrouped, amassing a fleet far larger and more advanced than before. Their goal was clear: to conquer Altherion and seize control of the surrounding star systems. Queen Lyra paced the command hall, her mind sharp and focused. The humans had a saying, she remembered. Hope is the first step to victory. Today she needed more than hope. She needed strategy, courage, and brilliance. Elias stood nearby, his posture relaxed but alert. 5 years of survival had changed him. His experience in uncharted space had sharpened his instincts, making him faster, smarter, and more adaptable than ever. He studied the holographic displays of the incoming fleet, noting weaknesses and patterns that no alien strategist had observed. Their formation is rigid, Elias said, pointing at the projection. They rely on sheer numbers and technology, but they cannot adapt quickly. That's our advantage, Lyra nodded. We have the soldiers and we have the city defenses. But we will need more than firepower. We will need ingenuity, Elias smiled faintly. That's where humans excel. Over the next several days, Lyra and Elias worked tirelessly. They combined human ingenuity with alien technology in ways never attempted before. Drones were modified to operate autonomously, capable of unpredictable maneuvers that confused enemy sensors. Shields were reconfigured to create dynamic barriers that could move with the flow of battle. And the soldiers, trained in both alien discipline and human improvisation, practiced strategies that challenged every expectation. Lyra watched Elias as he led the planning. He was patient, methodical, yet daring. He would sketch a plan, then discard it, trying another until he found the approach that was both clever and practical. Humans, she realized, were not bound by rigid thinking. They adapted to the unexpected, making them unpredictable, even to the most advanced enemies. As the fleets approached Altherion, the Queen gathered her commanders and Elias in the war room. Today, she said, we do not simply defend our home. We show the galaxy that courage, creativity, and cooperation can overcome even the strongest force. Elias nodded. They'll come expecting the same old defenses. That's when we surprise them. The first wave of enemy ships entered the planet's orbit. Energy blasts streaked across the sky, illuminating the crystal spires in brilliant flashes. The battle began, chaotic and loud. The alien coalition relied on overwhelming numbers, hoping to crush Altherion quickly. But Elias had anticipated their moves. He deployed small human-designed drones first, scattering them in unpredictable patterns. These drones disrupted enemy communications and targeted weapon systems, creating confusion among their ranks. Then, using a combination of energy shields and decoys, he forced the enemy fleet into positions that left them vulnerable to counterattacks. Lyra coordinated the palace's defensive forces, her alien abilities enhancing the shields and energy barriers. She moved with precision, directing troops and activating protective fields. But it was Elias's tactics that turned the tide. His unpredictability made the enemy hesitate, giving Altherion's forces the upper hand. Hours passed and the battle intensified. Enemy ships attempted to break through, targeting the city's core, but each move was countered by Elias's clever strategies. He had studied their patterns, predicted their reactions, and devised responses faster than they could adapt. Amid the chaos, Lyra fought alongside him. Together they became more than queen and human ally. They became a force that neither enemy nor ally could fully comprehend. Their coordination was seamless. Where she anticipated threats, he devised solutions. Where he improvised, she reinforced. In one critical moment, a massive enemy cruiser broke through the outer defenses, heading straight for the palace. Elias acted instantly. He deployed a series of drones, each equipped with energy disruptors. They swarmed the cruiser, targeting its engines and communication systems. At the same time, Lyra used her powers to deflect incoming fire, buying precious minutes. The cruiser faltered, spinning out of control, before crashing into a nearby asteroid belt. The enemy's morale faltered as their strategy crumbled under the combined ingenuity of humans and aliens. Throughout the battle, Elias's calm confidence inspired the soldiers. Even in the face of overwhelming odds, they adapted, using the human tactics he had introduced. Alien soldiers who once doubted humans now moved with trust, following his unpredictable commands without hesitation. By nightfall, the enemy fleet was retreating. Smaller skirmishes continued, but the main force had been defeated, their plan dismantled. Altherion had survived not through strength alone, but through creativity, courage, and the unpredictable brilliance of a human who had returned. Lyra approached Elias as the battle ended. Her eyes were bright with relief and pride. "You've done more than I imagined possible," she said. "Not just for me, but for all of Altherian. You've changed the way we fight, the way we think." Elias shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. You led your people with courage. The soldiers followed your example. Humans are clever, yes, but courage inspires more than tactics ever could." Lyra smiled. "Then together we are unstoppable." In the following days, Altherian's council formally recognized Elias as a hero of the planet, a symbol of the extraordinary potential of humanity. Reports spread to other star systems, and rumors of the human who had returned after 5 years captured the imagination of alien civilizations. They spoke not just of his courage, but of his ingenuity, adaptability, and the strange, almost impossible skill humans possess to survive and thrive against all odds. The Queen and Elias worked to solidify alliances with neighboring planets. Using the recent victory as proof of humanity's value, they demonstrated that humans could think differently, act unpredictably, and inspire others to greatness. Slowly, civilizations that had doubted humanity began to reconsider their assumptions. One evening, Lyra and Elias stood once more on the palace balcony, overlooking the city that had survived against impossible odds. The twin suns bathed the city in golden light, reflecting the hope that now spread across Altherian. "You know," Lyra said softly, "when you first appeared 5 years ago, I never imagined that your return would change everything. Not just the battle, but the way my people see humans. You've left a mark that will last for generations." Elias looked out at the horizon, a quiet determination in his eyes. "Humans adapt. We survive. We inspire. And sometimes we return when we are needed most." Lyra turned to him, admiration clear in her gaze. "You've done more than return. You've reminded us all that courage and creativity can overcome even the greatest dangers." Above them, the stars twinkled as if acknowledging the human who had changed the course of history. The galaxy had witnessed the power of a single human mind, paired with the courage of a queen who never forgot. And together they had proven that even against overwhelming odds, hope, ingenuity, and determination could prevail. Yet Lyra knew this was only the beginning. The rogue coalition had retreated, but they were far from defeated. And beyond that, other threats lurked in the shadows of the galaxy, waiting for a moment to strike. The true test had not yet come, but for now Altherian had won, and the extraordinary partnership of a queen and a human had shown that the galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The twin suns set, casting long shadows across the palace. Lyra and Elias stood side by side, ready to face whatever challenges the future might hold. For they had learned that when humans and aliens worked together, nothing was impossible, and the galaxy would soon learn that the courage of a single human could inspire entire worlds. The galaxy trembled. Reports poured into Altherian from neighboring systems. The rogue coalition had regrouped, forming an alliance with other discontented factions. Their combined fleet dwarfed anything Elias and Lyra had faced before. Entire star systems were at risk. For the first time in years, the Queen felt a shadow of worry, though she refused to show it. Elias stood at the edge of the command balcony, scanning the fleet through the palace's long-range sensors. His mind worked quickly, processing enemy formations, analyzing weapon systems, and calculating probabilities. 5 years of survival, countless battles, and dangerous missions had prepared him for this moment. But this threat was unprecedented. "They're more organized than before," he said, voice calm but firm. "They've learned from their mistakes. They'll hit us hard and fast, but they still can't anticipate human unpredictability." Lyra nodded. "Then we show them what humans and aliens can do together. We've built more than weapons. We've built strategy, courage, and trust. That will win this battle." The Queen's forces mobilized across the city and beyond. Starfighters, drones, and defense arrays glimmered under the twin suns. Every soldier had trained for months under Elias's guidance, learning human-inspired tactics that emphasized adaptability and improvisation. This was not just a battle of firepower, it was a battle of minds. As the enemy fleet approached, Elias deployed an intricate plan. He divided their forces into zones, using decoys and surprise maneuvers to create confusion. Human ingenuity was at its peak, with strategies that no rigid alien fleet could predict. Lyra coordinated with her elite forces, moving defensive shields, directing soldiers, and striking with precision. The first wave of enemy ships entered Altherion's orbit. Energy blasts lit the sky, casting reflections off the crystal spires. The battle erupted with chaos, yet Elias's calm mind directed every action. He countered attacks with clever tactics, using drones to disable weapons, redirecting enemy fire into safe zones, and exploiting the flaws in their rigid formations. Lyra fought alongside him, her powers weaving protective barriers and guiding troops with clarity. Together they became a single force, one mind and one instinct guiding the city's defense. The enemy underestimated them, expecting chaos to overwhelm the humans and aliens. Instead, they faced calculated brilliance. Hours passed. Enemy ships fell one by one, their formations breaking under the unexpected strategy. Small skirmishes continued, but the main fleet was in disarray. Elias adapted continuously, predicting their next moves faster than they could react. Every maneuver reminded Lyra why humans were extraordinary. They could think, adapt, and improvise in ways no alien species could. Then came the largest enemy vessel, a massive dreadnought that had led the coalition fleet. Its weapons could destroy entire districts of Altherion if left unchecked. Elias studied the ship carefully, calculating angles and vulnerabilities. He issued commands to the fleet combining human improvisation with alien precision. "Draw them closer," he instructed. "They'll think we're retreating. Then hit the engines, the communication nodes, and the command bridge simultaneously. Timing is everything." Lyra nodded, understanding immediately. The Queen trusted him completely, as she had 5 years ago during the first battle that changed everything. The plan required perfect coordination, bravery, and execution without error. The enemy dreadnought advanced, lured by the apparent retreat. Then at the precise moment human and alien forces struck. Drones disabled shields, starfighters bombarded engines, and Lyra's barriers protected the palace and civilians from collateral damage. The massive ship faltered, spinning uncontrollably before crashing into the nearby asteroid field. The coalition fleet, witnessing the loss of their flagship, began to scatter. Their organization crumbled under the combined brilliance of human strategy and alien strength. The final skirmishes were short, decisive, and victorious. Altherion had survived. As the dust settled, Elias and Lyra stood on the palace balcony. The city was intact, its people cheering in celebration. Soldiers hailed their victory, but the Queen's gaze remained on Elias. He had not only returned, he had saved the planet, inspired her people, and proven that humanity could challenge the galaxy's expectations. "Elias," Lyra said softly, her voice carrying across the balcony, "you've done more than I could have imagined. Not just today, but every day you've been gone, every lesson you've taught us. You've changed everything." He looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "I did what humans do best. We adapt, we survive, we inspire, but I couldn't have done any of this without you. You led your people with courage and trust." Lyra stepped closer, her admiration clear. "Then together we've shown the galaxy what can be achieved when courage meets ingenuity. Humanity is not just strong, Elias. You remind us that we can think beyond rules, beyond limits, beyond fear." Elias bowed slightly. "Then the galaxy will remember," and it did. Reports of the battle spread across star systems. Aliens who had doubted humans now spoke of their ingenuity, courage, and adaptability. Elias became a symbol, not only of human bravery but of potential, of what humanity could achieve when trusted, respected, and inspired. Lyra formally honored him in a ceremony unlike any Altherian had ever seen. Crowds gathered in the city square, celebrating the human who had returned, survived, and led them to victory. The Queen spoke of courage, ingenuity, and unity, and how one human had forever changed the perception of an entire species. Elias stood humbly, acknowledging the crowd, but it was the eyes of Queen Lyra that mattered most to him. She remembered him, had believed in him, and had trusted him without hesitation. That bond, forged in battle and strengthened through years of distance and anticipation, was unbreakable. After the ceremony, Lyra and Elias walked together along the palace gardens. The twin suns set in brilliant hues reflecting off the crystalline trees. "The galaxy will face more threats," Lyra said quietly. "But we've proven something important today, that courage, ingenuity, and trust can change the course of history." Elias nodded. "And humans will always rise to the challenge. We may be unpredictable, but that is our strength. We survive when others would fail, and we return when we are needed most. The Queen smiled. Then we face the future together, humanity and Altharian side by side. I trust you, Elias, as I did 5 years ago. And I trust you, Your Majesty, he replied. We make a good team. The stars above seemed to shimmer brighter that night, as if the galaxy itself recognized the bond between them. Humans had earned respect not through sheer power, but through courage, intelligence, and ingenuity, qualities that no alien fleet could ignore. Lyra and Elias looked out over the capital, the city alive with celebration. They had faced impossible odds, overcome them, and shown the universe what humanity could achieve. And somewhere in the depths of space, distant civilizations began to whisper stories of the human who returned, the queen who remembered, and the extraordinary courage that could inspire even the most advanced beings. For Elias, this was only the beginning. For Lyra, this was a lesson in hope, trust, and the boundless potential of a species she had once underestimated. Together, they had changed history. Together, they would face the future,